Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live match preview show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzy, and I'm your host for this evening. Apologies for being away for the last few days. I did promise I was going to do some shows. It's been very, very busy with work and family stuff, so apologies. But we're back, live and kicking. Um, and yes, we're talking about Wolves versus Liverpool again. Unfortunately, we lost to this team a few days ago, which I'll touch upon a little bit because I didn't do a match review. And then we will see who is available for this fixture and what the predicted lineups will be, because I'm sure there will be a huge shout to have a few changes in the starting lineup, with one player in particular who you can see on the screen right now. But we'll leave that discussion in due course. So let's start with what's happened the last few days in terms of Liverpool facing Wolves at the Molineux. Not the best of games. I wasn't actually able to watch the game live, which probably was a blessing in disguise, if I'm being honest with you. But what a terrible result. When I saw the scoreline on my phone, I was quite shocked just because I thought we may have turned the leaf. I'm not saying we've turned the leaf in terms of playing beautiful football or anything of that nature. More so that we're grinding out results, similar to what Manchester United are doing, because they're not playing great football, but they're getting results right now. So maybe we're in the more results and business right now, where we're getting the 3 points and trying to climb up the table. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. And Wolves have been sort of, I'll describe them as party poopers in the last few weeks, getting results against the bigger teams, but not doing it against teams around them. But end of the day, that's there's no point in me being petty there or throwing any shade. You have to give credit to Wolves for winning the fixture. They set up uh, quite well, and I think in terms of the way they set themselves up from a defensive standpoint, helped them get the result in the end. Um, Having said that, Liverpool created plenty of chances and maybe to wrap the game up a long time ago before the last 20 minutes. In the second half, Liverpool had an early chance from a set piece where Gakpo takes a shot away from Curtis Jones, who was literally a yard away from goal, and somehow Gakpo hits the crossbar. Now, for me, a ridiculous miss from the Dutchman. And it's not the first time, as he produced another shocking miss last week against West Ham as well. Arne Slot needs to be bold and drop his son-in-law from the lineup because it's becoming a joke now. No goals in 9 games, and that's not even the reason why I'm saying he should be dropped. More worryingly, he hasn't provided an assist since November, and that fixture was against West Ham 5 months ago. As a winger, if you haven't provided an assist in 5 months, that's a huge concern. If you've got players in the wings, no pun intended, that are ready to come in and make an impact on the team, you have to give someone else an opportunity, which he hasn't done, unfortunately. Wolves then took the lead from a Gomez finish. In terms of the goal, we have to give credit to the striker, Aro Kadara, who produced a good hold up play. But for me, Van Dijk and Kanate should have done a lot better in that goal. Van Dijk was easily nudged off the board there, and Kanate for me was running back but not fully committed in making a block. So in the end, poor defending from the Reds there. Liverpool almost got the equaliser through Rian Gamal, who's come off the bench again and has had an instant impact again, where he produces a shot from the inside the box. This time he hits the outside of the post, which was very, very unlucky. I thought it was going to go in, but it wasn't to be. And then minutes later, Liverpool got the equaliser through Mohamed Salah, who scored his fifth goal in the Premier League this season. Then in the 92nd minute, I'm thinking, do you know what? What a way to end the game with a last minute goal. Rio produces an inch perfect cross towards the near post. Van Dijk is the player who he ends up finding in the crowd. And you're thinking, you know, our captain, the colossal in the back line, he's going to bury that shot into the back of the net. Unfortunately, hits it straight at the keeper. Huge opportunity missed there because Wolves respond and in the end get the match winner. Former transfer target Andre gets the ball from the edge of the box, hits it towards goal. No real power, no real venom in that effort, but unfortunately, it hits Joe Gomez and then goes past Allison to hit the back of the net. So in the end, Wolves got all 3 points. But overall, from a Liverpool standpoint, poor performance from the Reds, a missed opportunity as they would have given us more leverage to climb up the table. But we're facing the same team at the same stadium tomorrow evening, so there's time to turn things around. Of course, the difference being is that this is going to be an FA Cup fixture, but more importantly, from a football standpoint, we have to learn from our mistakes and make up for that poor result. And remember, this is the fifth round of the FA Cup, so I believe there needs to be a winner. So the match will go to extra time and penalties if need be. So let's see how the team is up to, and let's see how we perform. I'm hoping we get a win. Fingers crossed that is the case. So let's move on and see who's available for tomorrow's fixtures. And I'll go through the comments very shortly as well. Now, in terms of the team news, Wolves are without any injury issues heading into this FA Cup fixture, leaving Rob Edwards with a fully fit squad. Must be nice having that sort of scenario there. Now, in terms of Liverpool, we've still got a long, lengthy list of injuries, unfortunately. The likes of Bradley, Leone, Florian Wirtz has been added to that. Bashtish, Endo, and Isak. Florian Wirtz, however, did train yesterday, but Slot made it seem like he could be available, but if he was to play, he'd only play for a few minutes. So in my head, I think what's the point of having him on the bench if he's only available for a few minutes? So let the boy rest, let my client rest, let him recover fully, and then bring him back into the mix. We've got Champions League matches next week, so that's more, I would say, important to get him involved for that rather than this fixture, in my opinion. Uh, so yeah, let's see, what the situation is if he's going to be selected for the squad or not. Before I do the predicted lineups, I'm just going to go through some of the comments here. From Bowl, big up Bowl as always. He said, big up Aussie, big up Bowl. Hope you're doing well. He said, no match reaction after that kind of loss, Aussie. Do I smell a slot in agenda? No, not at all. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the game live. I haven't even watched the whole game in total. Um, just because I couldn't be bothered. After that defeat, I didn't want to watch the game again. But I watched the highlights and extended highlights, and yeah, gathered in terms of why a lot of us Liverpool fans were peed off on that day, and yeah, rightly so. If I was watching that game, I'd probably feel the same as well. When you talk about that game, was your honest thoughts on the game? Just giving you my take. Poor performance. Unfortunately, our finishing cost us in the end. But at the same time, we just don't play the way we should play. The way we played last year, we played a bit more fluidity and a bit more pace, a bit more urgency. This year, it just seems everything's a bit lethargic, a bit lackluster. And it's not just this game, it's been the theme of our season in general. And that comes from the coach. He talks about, the league being boring. And I'll be honest with you, I do agree with him. This season, the Premier League has not been as exciting as it has been in previous years. But Liverpool play a hand in that as well. We haven't been great to watch either. If I wasn't a content creator, I probably wouldn't watch as many games live as I have done this season. So goes to show how poor we have been as a collective. So it's all good about pointing at the likes of Arsenal saying they're playing set piece football, but at the end of the day, that is a reflection of the league. Everyone is playing that type of football now, and that's not the way I want the game to go towards. I enjoyed elements of technical football with the years through the management of young Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola. You know, those type of coaches definitely, in my opinion, elevated the way the Premier League was played. Now everyone's just going for that long ball, route one, Sunday league tactics, and I'm not for that, to be honest with you. So, yeah, that's really my take on that game. And Salah Gakpo's wingers, are you happy that they play week in, week out? In this current squad that we have, I don't think there's too many qualms about Salah. I know Chiesa's there, but I think the whole Chiesa agenda has run its course. Whenever he's come on the bench or whenever he's come off the bench, I should say, and when he's come on to the pitch, he's not really had any impact. So when a player is not really showing much now, and I don't blame him, and that's not me, having a go at him. It's very difficult to be fully motivated when the coach doesn't have any faith in you or doesn't respect you in general. Um, so I don't expect much from Chiesa in that sort of situation. So in terms of Salah, I don't think we really have much option. Of course, Frimpong is there, but we don't have a right back behind him. So if we had Conor Bradley available, then it could be where we play Bradley and then play Frimpong ahead of him. So Frimpong would give you a different option, a different outlet on the wing. So I think with Salah, the scenario with him is that he's never really had proper competition. So I feel like he's always going to be one of the names on first names on the team sheet. Now in terms of Gakpo, that's a different conversation. I think he's had numerous amount of chances to showcase his talent and pretty much, tell everyone or showcase that, he should be first choice left winger. I think he's been poor for large parts of the season. And we've got a young kid in Rio and Gamal who's breaking through, who's trying to make an impact. And when he comes off the bench, somewhat I can say, well, he's only doing it for 10, 15 minutes. But the thing is, he's not being given an opportunity to do it from the start. He has made a couple cameos, or shall I say, couple starts this season, and he probably hasn't performed to expectations. But let's not forget, he's only 17 years of age. And I feel like that sort of management needs to be done in a way where if you give the kid a start out of the blue, but give him the confidence to say, look, just go out there and play your game. I think it would do him a wonder of good if that was presented from the coach. But I don't think Arsenal has that kind of style of management. I don't think he's a person that is warm when it comes to speaking to young players and giving them the license to do what needs to be done, or giving them the license to express themselves on the pitch. It's very much strategic. It's very much a system-based approach from our coach, especially. Um, and I feel like he's over reliant on Gakpo, who, for me, yes, he's a good player, but I don't really think he is head and shoulders above everyone else in the team where he starts week in, week out. He's not that caliber of player, in my opinion. Um, so no, in terms of current situation or current status, am I happy with them? I'm not, but there is not much choice. I think with Salah, I think he deserves to be in the team based on credit in the bank, and we don't really have an out right winger that can really challenge him in that role. But on the left hand side, I think there should be a bit more rotation between Rio and Gakpo. And I think if he was to give Rio a few starts here and there, I think that would definitely kick um, Gakpo on the backside. I think he will react in a positive way by coming off the bench and having an impact on games. Because whenever Gakpo's been on the bench and he's come on, he's actually looked decent. And that's why I've always said Gakpo, for me, is more of a squad player. Because I feel like when he comes off the bench, he's direct. We know what he's going to do. But in that part of the game where, let's say, he's playing in the last 20 minutes, he's up against fullbacks that are knackered, that have been running around all game. So he's able to exploit that sort of fatigue and use it to our advantage. That's why I feel like he's better used or utilized as a impact sub rather than a starter. But of course, maybe Rio is not quite up to the level yet where he can start week in, week out. So therefore, you know, I feel like we missed a trick last summer. We didn't sign a left winger that would have started above Gakpo, and Rio could have been embedded into this team in a slow fashion. But hey, here we are. But in terms of your question, I'm not happy, but we don't have much choice in terms of rotation. Although I would say Rio deserves a bit more game time going forward. Stuck in this FO. One of the worst games in the history of the club. Why do we always score goals after mistake? That's the thing. We always react to a mistake, or we always react to conceding a goal. That's not how a top team plays. A top team plays where they set the tone from the first second. Now, Arne Slot said that, mentioned something along the lines in the press conference today, that that's not his way of playing. He tells the players to attack, 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 keep ball possession, all of that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, that's not being reflected in terms of our performances. We're not playing in that kind of manner. So if he's, giving out those instructions, but the players are doing the total opposite, there's clearly an issue there. So make of that what you will. But we are not playing in that aggressive fashion. So I have to disagree with him in regards to that perspective. But yeah, it's annoying that we always respond or we react when we're a goal down. That's not how it should be. Ozzy, be honest, did you fall asleep in that first half? I didn't watch it live, so thank God I didn't. By your take, I'm assuming most people would have. So yeah, maybe I would have as well if I was doing a watch along. Do you think Alonso come in the summer? Stock can't continue, can he? I don't think he can, but you can never second guess the owners, unfortunately. And as I mentioned it previously, it depends on what happens at the end of the season. I don't think it will be based on where we finish entirely. I'm expecting us to be close. I expect us to be in and around the Champions League position. I'm still not fully convinced that we will finish there just because of our inconsistency. But let's say we manage to finish fourth or fifth and qualify for Champions League. That's the minimal requirement. And that's not me, or that's not something I think anyone should be jumping for joy because that is what should be expected with Liverpool. Now it depends in terms of the other competition. If we win the FA Cup, is that enough to save his job? Not for me. But if he wins the Champions League, is that enough to save his job? Unfortunately, it is. You can't sack a manager who's won the league and then the following year wins the Champions League. That doesn't really happen. And I think with FSG, I don't think they will make that call to dismiss him. Although they do have a primary managerial candidate in Xabi Alonso, who they have looked at in the past and really wanted to appoint before Arsenal was actually made head coach. Now, because he's available, maybe they're thinking this is the opportunity to get him on board, regardless of how the season ends. So I hope the owners are bold and don't look at what is achieved this season and actually make the call and get Xabi Alonso through the door and make him the first team coach next season. That's what needs to be done, in my opinion. And the slot in us thought we could beat PSG, Bayern, PSG. We're not being any of those elite teams, unfortunately. Happy with 6 Aussie? No, because that doesn't allow us to qualify for the Champions League. If we're not in the top five, I don't really care where we finish. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, doesn't matter. We're not in the Champions League, so it's irrelevant. So no, not happy with that at all. Did you think we would lose before the game? No, I thought we would have got a win. Wolves, of course, on paper, we're thinking bottom of the table. It should be a win that is easily attained, but with teams like Wolves, and history will tell you, especially this season, that they've given United a tough game, they've given Arsenal a tough game. So, they like to, you know, provide trouble when it's not needed. Um, because they're a lost cause. They're pretty much getting relegated this season. So no, I didn't think we'd lose. I think we would have got the win. I didn't predict us to get a crazy score. And I think I predicted 2-0. So I was expecting a solid win. But yeah, that's not unfortunately how it planned out, did it? While we saw everything still on the ball, no star identity. That's one of the things. That I feel like has been a big drop off. Last season, I'm not saying we were playing heavy metal football because it wasn't that young Klopp type of brand of football, but we were a lot better. We moved the ball quicker. We were better in our counter attacks. This we're just too predictable, too slow on the wings. I'm not sure, if it's change of tactics or if it's just the players aren't fully on board with the coach. It's very difficult to say, but we're just not playing with the real tenacity that we have been playing last season, but also in previous years as well. Of course, that was a different regime, but the players are still the same. So I expect more from this current crop of players. Van Dijk and Slot are the worst people we can get to talk to the media. Delusional as F. The thing is, when you speak to the media, especially from a captain's point of view, you kind of have to manage expectation. I think it's the same with Slot, although I think Slot is a bit more transparent than Van Dijk. I think Van Dijk's a bit more calculated in terms of how he speaks. But after defeat, I don't. There's times where you listen to a player, you listen to a coach, you don't want to hear it because we're already emotionally charged. We're already annoyed with the result. Doesn't really matter what they say, to be honest with you. So it doesn't really make a difference. Thoughts on Szoboszlai liking posts about him wanting to join Madrid. Just like I said, Szoboszlai is not captain material, just a diva. Like his rat friend, get him out. I haven't seen that, to be fair. If that's the case, that's not a good look. I also heard or I read somewhere that it's his dream to play for Real Madrid, which annoys the hell out of me when I see stuff like that. But look, we can't really comment on something that is just hearsay, so we'll just leave it at that. But no, it's not a good look. Thoughts on Gravozzi been awful this season, not a number six. I didn't watch the game entirely, but I've heard from other people that he didn't have the best of games. Um, I feel for him a little bit because I feel like his role has changed in the team, and I think that's based on what the coach wants from him. I think the coach has given him a bit more of a license to roam around, whereas last season he was pretty much told, "You're the number six. You got to stay deep. You got to clean up shop." And I feel like that allowed him to concentrate on one aspect of his game, and that's where he excelled in. This year, he's doing a bit of both, so he's doing a bit of a hybrid role. I don't think we're getting the best out of him because if you're told to be a number eight, you can drive the ball, you can make those surging runs. But if you're told to do that, but also you got to drop back and be a number six, it's not tailored for everyone to do that kind of role. It's probably asking too much of him to do as well. But his performances have been inconsistent. I think that's because of a slight tweak in his way, in his sort of role from a tactical standpoint. Um, I still feel like last season I was very impressed in terms of how he performed as a number six. I do feel like in the long term, we need to sign. I know, Bo, you don't really like talking about transfers, but I genuinely believe that we need to sign a proper number six that can play alongside Gravenberg. And if that number six on paper is not available, then we know Gravenberg can come in and do a job. I think to list Gravenberg as the main number six, I feel like it still work. I'm still a believer that he can do that role. Because I believe that Gravenberg and Szoboszlai as a pairing can really excel and really work going forward. Um, but unfortunately, due to our issues at right back, Szoboszlai had to play in that role many of times and also other positions on the pitch. So we've not had that consistency in the middle of the park. And that might be a factor to the why Gravenberg hasn't performed as well. Last season, it was predominantly him and McAllister or him and no, it wasn't Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai was playing a bit more advanced. So mainly him and McAllister as a pairing. This year he's played against Jones. He's played with Jones, with Szoboszlai, with McAllister. So maybe he's not formed that chemistry or that partnership that we would like to see on the pitch. I'm not making excuses for him, but I do feel like some of these things have to be considered. Um, I'm not just going to put the blame on the coach entirely, but I do feel like his tactics haven't helped in terms of continuing from last season's success, where Gravenberg was, for me, the best number six in the league. And he's not been able to play in that role, unfortunately. So, yeah, make of that what you will. Both says Spurs get relegated. I saw the result 3-1 to Palace. They're only 1 point above relegation. So they're currently 16th, but it's a 1 point gap. If they were to get relegated, that's probably one of the most sort of what's the word? One of the top sides getting relegated, in my opinion. I know we've seen teams like Newcastle and West Ham get relegated, but Tottenham, some may not regard them as a big club, but I still feel like they do hold some credibility, even though they might not meet the metrics of winning lots of silverware. Um, but yeah, that would be a huge blow to them if they were to get relegated. You can't rule it out. The appointment of Igor Tudor as well, I thought was a bit bizarre. I know he's a former Juventus coach, but he got that role because he's a former player. I didn't really view him as a proper coach or anything of that nature. So I thought it was a bizarre appointment. They could have got someone with a bit more experience. Um, yeah, strange decision to go for him, in my opinion. But hey, let's see what happens with Tottenham. We'll take Van der Ven and Bergval. I'm not a big fan of Bergval. I think he's bang average, to be fair. I don't think he's better than Groundberg. I don't think he's better than Szoboszlai. I don't think he's better than McAllister, nor Jones. So he'd be fifth choice in my picking order. So I'm not a big fan of him. Van der Ven, good player, solid defender, quick, left-footed as well, which would give us a different dimension in the back line. But very much injury prone, which is not something that I'd want us to attract again because we seem to buy those players a lot, and then yeah, ends up hurting us in the long term. Be honest, did you celebrate that Salah goal? I didn't watch it live, so if I'm celebrating in watching highlights, a bit weird. But no, so I can't really comment on that, unfortunately. But yeah, Wolves didn't even start their best team. 4 or 5 players who started on the bench will start tomorrow. It's criminal he's still in the job. Get the board forward out. Complaining about the league is boring, but then plays probably the worst game of the season. Yeah, there's a bit of irony in that because I don't think we're playing great football at all. Uh, Steve, big up yourself, Steve. He says disgusting performance by everyone involved. How are you so positive, Ozzy? Getting to these effing players and coach. Maybe because it's a few days ago, I'm not feeling that sort of annoyance about that result. Um, I don't feel like maybe it's just the way I'm talking right now. I'm not positive about the current team because my expectations are quite low. I don't think we're going to even get top four, top five. If we get fifth, maybe. Um, but I'm not saying it with chess. I'm normally very clear cut with my predictions. I just don't think we have it to be that consistent, and we've got a lot of injuries in our squad as well. I feel like we're missing Florian Wirtz, and that's something that we need to possibly rectify in the summer. But having said that, we do have Szoboszlai, but because Szoboszlai has been played all over the gaff, that doesn't help in that scenario. So no, I don't think I'm being positive today. I'm maybe just not speaking with any aggression or animosity just because that result happened a few days ago. I'm a bit late to the party because I haven't done a show since Sunday, I think. So yeah, that might be the reason why I feel like I'm being positive. But yeah, far from it. Shit performance and shit results, no positives. No, I agree with that. Salah wants not out. I think we all do. I think you do more so than not, Bo, to be fair. Bo says Sabola can play right wing. No excuse not to bench Salah. A good coach play those who deserves it. Gakpo and Salah do not deserve to play at the moment. Yeah, Sabola can play right wing, but we don't really have a worthy option in that advanced midfield role. And I want to see Vertze, but because he's not available, the next best thing is Szoboszlai. Frankie Jones can do a job there as well, but due to his issues with the gaffer, he's not going to get many game time at all. Um, so yeah, when Salah's shit, bench him. When Werner's shit, bench him. Big names don't mean enough anything. Those who deserve to be benched get benched. The thing is, we don't have people that can come in and change it for us. You bench Virgil van Dijk. Who comes in to replace Virgil van Dijk? Joe Gomez. Can't rely on Joe Gomez. He's just moments away from getting injured, and that's no offense to him because that's my guy right there. But Salah as well, same scenario. These players are not just big names; they are players because they have produced the goods over the years and they have credit in the bank. That's why we call them big names now. They weren't brought in as big names, if that makes sense. So right now, our current squad does not have the players or we can't afford to bench players like Salah and Van Dijk just because they're having an off game here and there. Of course, 1 or 2 fixtures here and there, maybe, but then it will just be labeled as squad rotation rather than saying, you've been dropped for that game. Um, but no, I don't agree with that, to be fair. Turn things around, bro. No, I don't know what's gonna happen with us. To be fair, um, I'm a little bit concerned in terms of how we're gonna finish this season. There's not too many points in terms of the top four finish, but when your team is so inconsistent, it's really hard to put the finger on the pulse in terms of where we're going to finish, and you can't say with chest either. So yeah, it's a bit of a crazy one. Do you see Stock not clapping for Jota? Even the Wolves manager did it, and they have never met. That tells you everything. His arrogance. Bloody hell. But beyond that, um, I don't care if we finish fifth or seventh, both are awful positions, not acceptable. I agree. It's not acceptable, but you kind of have to make the best of a worse situation. And I'm saying it's a worse situation. And I don't want to sound entitled, but the worst situation because we're current champions and we shouldn't be fighting for fifth. So that's unacceptable. So I totally agree with that. Uh, but we have to be realistic. We need to finish fifth. You might not like us being labeled as a team that finishes fifth this season, but finishing fifth gives us Champions League football. So that needs to be done. Seventh, we're playing Conference League. I'm not doing watch alongs for Conference Leagues. I can't even pronounce half of the teams. So not gonna waste my time doing that. Um, we have to finish fifth. It's a must. Obviously, we're not winning the Champions League. Can we lose when we lose to Wolves? So it's bigger than. I'm not saying we're winning the Champions League. I don't think I've ever said that. To be fair, the only reference I've made about winning Champions League is in terms of Slot's future. If he was to win the Champions League, which would be a miracle, uh, that would keep him at the job for another year, in my opinion. But do I see us winning the Champions League? Absolutely not. I don't care how much of an optimistic fan you are. It's not gonna happen. If we had an easy run like Arsenal have on paper, then maybe, but no, that's not gonna happen. Hopefully your client is still out, Ozzy. Stock doesn't deserve him. Bit harsh there on my client. It's not annoys the hell out of me. Yeah, I think he does to all of us, to be fair. People do know that a manager can play offensive football even though the league has changed. It's just to press and throw people in attack, not that hard. I feel like he makes a lot of excuses. Yes, the game has changed in terms of the way the Premier League is being played. But having said that, that's something for your team to evaluate, your scouts, your sporting director. This is the reason why you guys have been employed, for you to understand where football is going. As fans, we saw it, but they're the qualified ones, aren't they? They should have known this. And when you can see the league being heavily focused on set pieces, and we're probably the only league in Europe that are heavily focused on set pieces, by the way. You know where the league is going towards. And I remember, I think the only coalition that I can think in recent history um, is when we had Benitez. So in Benitez's first season, we won the Champions League. Yes, you know, Istanbul was another miracle moment there, which will always live in our memories until the end. But in the league, we struggled. We finished fifth in the league that season, and the issues with the team that Benitez had at the time was that he signed technical players like your Luis Garcia's, like your Xabi Alonso's, and we needed to add players that were a bit more physical to that team. So the likes of Peter Crouch came, who was a physical presence, a player that holds up the ball in the final third. Um, who else do we have? Sissoko, I think, came in. He was a disruptive sort of midfielder. So we added physical type of players in our squad. So that's what I feel like should have been done in the summer. And I'm still going to stand by the point that I think I think we bought good players last summer. I'm not going to change my opinion. I still stand by that. But I feel like we missed out on not signing a six, and we missed out on not signing a DM. Now, if we had signed a Gehi and we signed a proper DM that presented that physical presence in the middle of the park, then our season might be different here. I truly believe that. But hey, Liverpool missed the trick there, unfortunately. Um, why not as angry as after the Forest PSV game? Oh, this is not acceptable. It's because the game happened a few days ago. So I'm not going to bottle those emotions and let out. But having said that, look, we're playing Wolves tomorrow. If we lose, because I do plan on doing a watch along and I plan on doing a match reaction show straight after. If we lose again, then yeah, I don't want to sound predictable, but you'll probably see a very angry version of me, or a peed off version at least. Um, but because that game's in the back of my mind, I'm not really feeling that emotion, so that's why. Double D, big up Double D as always. He says 2 assists for your client Wharton. Do you know what? I haven't seen the highlights, but he's got 2 assists. Okay, not bad at all. We have people for Grav as centre back. Then we don't have people. Who's our midfield options? We don't have many midfield options, unfortunately. Um, I hate this acceptance of shit performances. Oh, there's no acceptance on my side. There's no acceptance. I'm just more. I feel like now I'm just hopeful that we get results now because I'm not expecting us to perform at a different level. I think the way the season panned out, you know, it'd be a miracle if we start switching up and start playing champagne football. It's not going to happen, unfortunately. So for me, right now, at this late stage of the season, it's all about grinding out the results, getting the points, and just climbing up that table so we can secure Champions League football and try and rectify mistakes that have been made this season. So, i.e., additional recruits for the squad, make sure they are actually ready to play the physical game, not just technical players. But before that, actually, I'd probably say get rid of the coach and get Xabi Alonso through the door. That would be the first thing I would do. Um, Steve, can you imagine us learning how to pronounce Wi-Fi password teams in the Conference League like oh my God, Ludogorets and Notchland. Notchland I can pronounce because it's a Danish team. But listen, I will have to do some sort of Duolingo course to learn how to pronounce those names. I don't really have the time for that. So, yeah, if we end up being in that competition, I will butcher a lot of the names. Forget the team names. I'll butcher every player's name. So I guess for you guys, it might be entertainment. It is what it is. But yeah, hopefully that is not the case, and we don't have to envision that next season. But also, will you watch the game tomorrow? Yes, I will be doing a watch along as well. So if you're around, feel free to tune in. And then yeah, we can watch the game together and yeah, discuss it in the live chat. But yes, I will be doing a watch along there. Unfortunately. Uh, this is a ball, and I want to see Aussie Rage quit during the live. Not yet, not yet, not yet for me. Let's see. You never know. I feel like there will come a point where I lose the plot on screen. But yeah, let's see. Boss says Jones, Mac Custable's landing only lots of options. Yeah. Um, yeah, I guess. But Jones is not in favor, unfortunately. And look, you're right. He is a Bible player. You are correct. But Slot just Slot's he's a weird character. He's a weird character. I think as soon as he has an issue with someone, he just has a bit of a hissy fit and just says, "Yeah, you're not part of the seven anymore." So now it feels like that's one player down. Maka's already in the team, so he's always starting alongside Gravenberg in midfield. So I don't really include Maka as an option. So Bosley would be either advanced midfield or he'd be at right back. Nyoni, I would give him a few more minutes personally. I think he deserves. I think out of him and Rio, I think Rio deserves a lot more starts because of our issues on left wing. But I think Nyoni deserves to get some more game time, more cameos, in my opinion. Um, we have options, but I wouldn't quite go as far as to say lots of options. I don't think that's the case. So I've seen your team there, but let me predict the lineups and then I will showcase my team with you guys as well. Excuse me. So what we'll do the Wolves team. Now, Bo mentioned earlier on that they didn't even start their best players, which I guess to an extent he is correct. The likes of Hang Hee Chan and um, Belgar, who would have been the first pick, and the other Gomez as well. But it's another thing that he's going to go with the same team because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So why not go for that same team? It's in the same stadium, same environment. So I feel like he's going to go with the same team. So let me present that on the screen for you guys. So um, who was the goalkeeper in that game? Let me double check because I know they have Sam Johnston in goal. Would they start another keeper? Maybe that's the player they'll rotate. So let me put Sam Johnston there. Even though I'm not sure they will, but let's just say, squad rotation there. Then you've got Doherty on the right hand side. Then you've got Ueno. Oh, Ueno. Centre back, yeah. So he'll start there. And Gretzky as well on that left hand side. Um, the right back, Chachal. There he is. And he's been quite impressive for Wolves, to be fair. And you got Wolf on the left hand side. He was close to leaving Wolves in the January window, but still there. Then Mane, the player that we are looking towards, not this Mane. Uh, if he's here, where is he? Let me type his full name. Mateus. Mateus Mane. There he is. Doesn't even have a face. All right, there we go. Mateus Mane. Um, Andre. I think we'll start in this one. And then Gomez. Now, the number 10 role is the one I'm unsure about because the player that started was Gomez, the other Gomez, the former Manchester United player. I think, does he go for Bellegarde in this one? Let's go with Gomez. I think he'll give Gomez. Oh, so you're saying Andre's suspended tomorrow? Is he suspended? Okay. In that case, I wasn't aware of that. I thought he had a fully. Is that true? Let me see if I can find out quickly. Is Andre? Oh, you're correct. Okay. In that in that case, then what I would do. Thank you for that, Bo. Um, put him here. Oh my gosh, there's so many players. Um, I would put Bellegarde here. Bellegarde, because I think he'll be the engine in that midfield as well. So Gomez, Matheus Mane, Bellegarde, and these two players can definitely attack if needed. Um, and then I'm going to go with Gomez and into Gomez, and then I'm going to go with who started? Was it Armstrong that started for them? Who else do they have? With Orokador? Do you know what? I might go for him. I think he might start because he gave Van Dijk torrid time. So I'm going to go for Tolu. Tolu Orokador up top. Um, Double D saying Sarge. Do you know what, Double D? I think you might be right, you know. I don't see the reason why they would play Johnson based on the team I've just presented. So, yeah, let's go back to Sa. Oh my gosh. Jose Sa. There we go. I think they're going to go strong. So that is my predicted Wolves team. So yeah, drop a comment and let me know what you guys think. I think this will be the team that starts tomorrow. But yeah, feel free to let me know what you think. Let me just go through some of the comments here. Boss saying he's not going to play the same team. Aussie, Mosquera, Alcadar, Belagar, and Bueno all coming in. Well, I've got some of the names you present here. So I've gone for Orokadara at the top, up top. I've gone for Bellegarde. Um, the other Bueno, I guess, can play on the left side, but I think Gretzky is probably the better player, if I'm being honest with you. So I think this would be the team that I think would go. But let's see, let's see. Mosquera could definitely be a player that actually comes in. He's actually normally been quite solid, but I think the other Bueno has been solid at the back as well. So I'm just going to stick with that. Andre Despender, so I appreciate you letting me know. Dana says, hello, mate. Big up yourself, Dana. Appreciate your comment. Thank you for tuning in. Hugo Bueno, the left back. Yeah, but I'm going to go with Krejci in this one. Mascara in for Doherty. Let's see. I'm going to stick with this one. So let's see who starts for tomorrow. Um, and to be fair, I'm not going to debate the Wolves lineup too tough right now. Let's talk about Liverpool. This is the one we can debate in more detail. So, Mamadashvili or Allison, who starts in this one? Let me know in the chat what you guys think because there's been rumors circulating that Mamadashvili is not happy with his current role at the squad and might potentially actually want to move away from Liverpool on loan next season. So, make of that what you will. Um, who starts in this one? I actually think he might go with Mamadashvili, knowing that we have a Champions League game on Tuesday. So I'm gonna go for Mamadashvili. Although he doesn't normally rotate in the FA Cup because he did mention that a couple of weeks ago. That League Cup he always rotates with the second keeper. FA Cup he doesn't, but he always assesses around the fixtures. You know, if there's a Champions League game, he might consider. So I feel like maybe in this scenario he will consider. Um, I could be wrong. So let's see if my theory is right. But I think with Galatasaray fixture coming up on Tuesday, I think he might keep that in mind. Just realized that fixture's on at 5:45 p.m. as well. Bit early for my likings, but hey, here we are. Now, in terms of the rest of the team, I think we'll see quite a few players rotate. So I'm going to go for Robertson at left back. Van Dijk will remain in the team. I don't think we've got too many options to change there. I think Konate might be rested. So maybe Joe Gomez comes in at centre back. And then Jones plays at right back. I think that could be something we see tomorrow. Just so we don't rush Frimpong. I know Frimpong came on and produced a good cameo last weekend against West Ham. But if we keep on playing him in consecutive games, it could trigger another injury, unfortunately. So we just have to manage his minutes. So he'll be on the bench as a option for us later in the game. So I think that would be the backline that I would go with. Um, and I'm also kind of predicting as well. There'll be Gravenberch in the middle of the park alongside McAllister. Advanced number 10 role, or advanced midfield role, I should say, will be Sobozlai. Um, on the right, Mohamed Salah. I don't really think Chiesa has a shoe in this team. If he doesn't do it, when will he do it? Has to start Rio, if I can pronounce it, Engamoha. Has to start the young kid in this fixture. Has to start him. I don't think it's an option not to start him now. It's gone beyond it, in my opinion. So I'm going Rio on the left hand side. He has to start him, and up top, you got Ekatike. So that is my starting lineup for tomorrow. So drop a comment and let me know what you guys think. I think Bo presented his lineup earlier on. So he said Mama, Gomez, Virgil, Grav, Robertson, Jones, Neoni, Frimpong on the right, Sobo advanced 10, Rio, XTK. I do like the Frimpong shout. I just think we have to manage his minutes. If he didn't play in the previous fixture, then I would have started him in this one. But if he plays tomorrow and Tuesday, that's 2 games in a few days, and then plus he did make that cameo on Saturday as well. So for a player that's just returned from injury, that might be too much too soon. Um, I'm not I'm not a doctor, but that would be my assumption in terms of how to manage players, especially when they've just returned from a hamstring injury. So yeah, I think he will be rested, but I think he will be an option for us off the bench. But in terms of your team, it's not too dissimilar to mine, although I've gone with Joe Gomez as centre back, you've got him as a right back, and that's because you put Gravenberch in defence, which could happen because it has happened in the past. Um, just gonna go through some of the comments here. If we could go out tomorrow and lose like 5-0 versus Gala, could he be sacked? No. Bo, we have to get this thought out of your head. He's not getting sacked. even if he loses 5-0, he's not going to get sacked. Um, Unfortunately, we're just gonna have to ride it out until the end of the season and then see what happens. But right now, no, he's not going to get sacked based on one result. It's not going to happen. The atmosphere is going to ruin us over in Gala. The atmosphere is going to be electric. And of course, we played Galatasaray at their stadium and lost 1-0, although it was a bit of a dodgy penalty, to be fair. Um, but I'm looking forward to it. A bit of a craziness in terms of the return fixture at Anfield, where they're not allowed to have any traveling fans coming over. So we're interested to see, if that means more seats are allocated for Liverpool fans to come over and watch the game. So, if there's seats available, I might even look into buying a ticket for myself and go over there. But yeah, hopefully, we can get the job done. If we get a result there, I think it puts us in a great position to qualify into the next round. But then the big question is, who do we face? Looking at the table that it was presented in, it looks like it could be PSG, which is not going to be an easy task, as we know, because our manager still talks about that game till this day. Um, let's got a comment here from uh Femi Shuma 7500. But so it's a gentleman, thoughts and prayers for Spurs. Yeah, thoughts and prayers for Spurs. They're going through a tough time. I even heard rumors suggesting that they're going to sack Igor Tudor after just being appointed as a week. And some fans even suggesting that he's lost the dressing room already. Honestly, that was such a ridiculous appointment. As a player, so I vaguely remember as a player, he was quite a aggressive, no nonsense type of defender. His management, that's his personality as a person. So in terms of his management, it's going to be the same. I just felt they went for the wrong profile. It kind of felt like they had to do that out of desperation. Should they have stuck with Thomas Frank? I think he lost some sections of the fan space as well. But yeah, crazy situation there. Crazy, crazy situation. 14 losses, 0 wins in 2 months. Yeah, that's wild. 14 losses. I didn't really realize it's that much. I mean, do you blame Trudeau or Frank? No, well, you blame Frank, don't you? Because obviously he was manager for large parts, but not every manager has that new manager bounce. So I don't want to be cheeky when I say that, but you're expecting a better reaction when a new manager has been appointed. But I feel like it's kind of gotten a bit worse, if that was even possible. So he just wasn't the right. He's just not the right fit for the club. They needed someone with a bit more experience. And I don't think he's that guy. His experience as a player, and of course he managed Juventus, but that's because of his relationship with the club, being a former player. But yeah, crazy, crazy, crazy situation there. Will they get relegated? You'd assume that they'd get out of it, but football teaches you that anything can happen. Unfortunately, why do you think Spurs will sack the manager after 3 games? But with Slot, you are not thinking it crazy, Aussie. No, you have to. You have to understand who the managers are playing for, as in who are hiring these managers. We have FSG as our owners, but I'm not even going to put the blame on FSG here. We've got a sporting director and a CEO of football that brought Slot in as their project. They're not going to sack him right now. Slot should have been sacked in November. I've said this so many times. Whereas at Spurs, they have a different culture. They are relentless when it comes to sacking managers. They don't mess around. And maybe we should take a leaf out of the book. Yes, maybe. But then I don't want to be in their situation either. So um, I wouldn't quite go far to say, it's crazy of me to say that. It's a reality. They've sacked Thomas Frank. They've got in someone who I don't think is the right fit. And this is not me saying I'm not a Tottenham fan, but I've heard Tottenham fans say that this manager is not the right fit at all. He's worse. He's unstable with the team already. So that's from their perspective. I'm only letting you guys know what I've heard from Tottenham fans. So So no, I don't think it's crazy of me. I think it's crazy that Slot is still within the job. Yes, but if you were to think that, oh, we're going to lose tomorrow and then he gets sacked, then you've not read the room as well, because I feel like you should know by now FSG aren't going to make those knee-jerk reactions, especially under Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes. They're not going to sack their guy right now. They're going to do it at the end of the season if they are going to make that call. So we have to be realistic. We have to understand who we're dealing with, in terms of having two individuals that have a lot of pride and ego right now and won't sack a Premier League winning manager. That's the difference between Slot and Thomas Frank, unfortunately. So make of that what you will. Will he get a new contract before the summer? He will only get a new contract if he wins the Champions League, which for me is a far stretch. So my answer to that would be no. I don't think he will. I think they will make the move and go for Xabi Alonso. That is what I'm predicting. I don't know if that's my heart or my head talking, but that's what I'm going with right now. Hughes will leave in the summer though. Thank God. I don't know if that's official, but if that is the case, thank God. And I hope the club find the right sporting director, because yeah, for me, wasn't a smart appointment in the first place. Looking at the upcoming Spurs games, relegation fort gets clear every game to they take to the pitch. I'm gonna have a look at their fixtures. Let's have a look at their fixtures and see uh, where they are. Spurs fixtures. I'll show it on the screen as well so you guys can see as well. Where are we? Where are we? Okay. Okay, so the Champions League ties do not help them right now because they're in a dogfight for Premier League survival, but they play Atletico. We play them. Liverpool. Don't want to predict stuff here, but it's the type of game Liverpool can lose as well, just because we're so inconsistent ourselves. Then they've got Forest, which won't be easy. Sunderland won't be easy. Brighton, they normally have good games. Wolves, they like to disrupt everyone's momentum. Villa, Leeds United, and they got Chelsea and Everton. So yeah, on paper you expect them to get a few wins, but then again, on paper they've not done much this season. You mentioned 14 losses, which is crazy in 2 months. Um, but yeah, let's see. Boss says, relax, man. You'll beat us at Anfield. You know what? Knowing Liverpool, we will probably drop points. And give you guys a bit of hope. Or we might even aid you in terms of Premier League survival. Who knows? Who knows at this stage? Um, but yeah, let's see, what happens for Spurs, and let's see what the future holds for them. Um, Now, in terms of this fixture that we're talking about today, I'm hoping this is the lineup that we see personally, 'cause I feel like it has enough quality. If it does, can Liverpool get the result? It's hard to say, but I'm gonna try and be positive, even though I don't feel like I've been too positive. But I've been told I've been positive, but I will remain positive for now, and I will say Liverpool will nick the win, and I'll say we'll win 1-0, and I'm going to brand this game as the game where someone makes a name for themselves, and I'm saying Rio and Gomorrah scores the winner. He starts and he scores the winner in this fixture. That's what I'm hoping and predicting for this game. So yeah, let's see if that happens. Um, Thoughts on Slot releasing Diaz? You mean selling Diaz, not releasing, because we never released him. Um, at the time, I wasn't pleased about that departure, but it wasn't just down to Slot. The club weren't willing to improve his contract terms at the time. So therefore, because that was a stumbling block for Diaz, he wanted to move away. So it was more from Diaz, where he didn't feel like he was being valued and wasn't going to be given improved terms or a new contract in total. So because of that, he made the stance that he wanted to leave. So I wouldn't really put it on Slot, because I think Slot may have wanted to keep him, kept him at the time. To be fair, I think more of a contract situation where He wasn't going to get a pay rise. Club weren't willing to give someone of his age. I think he's 29. Um, even though we've done it for Salah and Van Dijk, but I guess those are exempt in this example here. And because of that, he decided to move. And look, he ended up getting a move to Bayern Munich, a huge European club. Uh, Definitely got a pay rise there. I think he's paid twice or even more than that. To be fair, playing great football there, scoring a lot of goals. So yeah, he's doing well. And no surprise to me. No, I don't think there'll be too much surprise amongst the Liverpool fan base either. Um, but yeah, it's a shame because I think what we've missed out on is actually replacing him directly. And we've had to, in my opinion, suffer by watching Gakpo week in, week out because he's been uh, a very poor player to watch with no end product, unfortunately. And that's why we're all screaming for Rian Gomez to get a start because I think it's fully deserved. You've gone for a win for Liverpool, which is appreciated there. I'm not sure if everyone agrees with that sentiment. I'm going for a 1-0 win, but I'm hoping Rian Gomez scores the match winner in this fixture. So that's my match preview today. So hopefully um, you guys have enjoyed the show. But before we close the show, there's a few rumors that I always like to talk about. If there's any rumors circling online, whether they're true or not, always like to discuss them so you guys have a bit of insight in terms of what's been discussed on the airwaves and potential targets for us. Because the season is going to conclude in about 2 3 months time, so why not look for the future? So in terms of potential players, this name popped up today, and that was Kefren Turam. So apparently, the likes of Arsenal, Liverpool, and Manchester United are all considering a move for the French midfielder. He's attracted a lot of interest after impressing Italy, with Liverpool particularly keen on doing a deal worth 45 million euros plus bonuses. So that would equal to about 40 odd million plus add-ons, I guess. So in total would probably be 45 million. So my thoughts on the rumor. I do like the player. I think he has actually developed and excelled from his move from Nice to Juventus. Um, but I don't know if he's the profile one. I think he's a similar profile of Gravenberch. And I don't really want the same profile again in our midfield. I want us to sign a proper number six. Turam can play at number six, well, but I would say his natural game is more of a box to box midfielder as the number eight. I think that's his strong sort of strengths as a player. I think that's his natural position as well. So I like the player. I think he would do well in a Liverpool team, but I just don't want us to sign another profile like Gravenberch. I want us to go with a bit more of a direct approach and get someone to be a foil for the players that we already have with the likes of Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Jones, a defensive minded player that can play alongside the players that I've just listed. So that would be the way I would go about it. Um, so yeah, good player, but I don't think he's the right profile for us. Just got a comment here from Femi Shuma, 7500. He says, yeah, replacing him is not easy, but this kind of repeats with Mane, Diaz, the heartbeats of the team. That's true, but I don't think we made an effort to replace Diaz. We assumed that Gakpo and Rion Gomor would have been enough. But the thing is, the second player in Rion Gomor, he hasn't been given any opportunities to start games. So with that said, that pretty much gives Gakpo a clear pathway playing week in, week out, and it doesn't matter how he performs, he's going to be in the team because his competition is a young up and coming player. So that's my issue there. We should have signed another left winger or another versatile forward that could play on the left and the right. If you want to cover all grounds, but we didn't do that. We didn't replace him. I feel like we're man down in our attacking lineup. So yeah, that's how I look at it. Touchline Chaos says, big up yourself, Touchline Chaos. I hope you're well. Now let's move on to the next rumor. Is Yan Diamonde. So this rumor, we hear it every week, don't we? But the latest rumor is that Red Bull Leipzig won about £70 million if they are to sell the 19-year-old Ivory Coast winger, who has been linked to a move to Liverpool and United, amongst others. Leipzig don't want to lose the forward, but they've accepted that they will have to sell him at the right price. So my thoughts on that, the price has been reduced because they have been saying 90 million for large parts of the last few months. And now it's come down to 70. 70 still seems a bit high, but I'll be honest with you, he's a player I do like the look of. I watched him a lot more since we've been linked with him. I've tried to watch Leipzig games here and there, and I've seen compilations as well. Um, he looks good, very, very good. And I think the key element of signing a player like Diomande is he's so versatile, can play on the left, can play on the right. He's both footed as well. So it's ambidextrous where, we don't know if he's left or right footed. That's how talented he is. And I feel like adding him to a squad would definitely push the likes of Gakpo, Salah to really step up if they want to stay in the team because he can replace either of those players in the lineup. So I think this type of profile makes a lot of sense. Of course, being 19 years of age and costing 70 million is a steep price, but that's the market we live in. Unfortunately, you're going to have to pay the big bucks to get those type of players. Um, but I do like this profile, and a player that I want, which I'll probably speak about very shortly, might not be available. So I guess this would be the alternative. And the player I'm talking about, Miles going to him now, is Michael Olise. So the current rumor is that he has no plans to leave Bayern Munich this summer. Liverpool have been actively scouting for the long-term successors, and they view Elise as the perfect fit for the system. Um, but at this stage, it doesn't look like a move is on the cards. So my thoughts on that, no surprise. Bayern Munich will do everything they can in their power to keep hold of their star player. Um, he would be the dream signing, in my opinion. I think he would be the perfect long-term successor to Mohamed Salah, and can really elevate this team going forward. So for me, he's the number one target. If not available, I wouldn't mind going for Yan Diomande and maybe go for Elise next summer. I'm just playing fantasy football here, but he's a player that I really do like. Um, but yeah, if it's not in the cards, it's not in the cards. So we have to look elsewhere, and I think Yan Diomande would fit the bill for what we need in the team. Another player that we've linked to is no surprise that we've been linked to wingers because I think that is the role that we're going to definitely address in the summer. And the player that we're currently linked to is Morgan Rogers. Now, the rumor is that Villa could be forced to consider the sale of Morgan Rogers if they miss out on Champions League qualification amid their financial pressure. And Liverpool are seen as a player that have shown a lot of interest, and the price tag that has been labeled on the player is £100 million. Now, my thoughts on that. Look, I rate Morgan Rogers, and I've spoken about him quite a few times over the months and probably even years now. He's been at Villa for a couple of years, but very, very talented player. Can play on the left, can play on the right, can play as a number 10, which I think is his primary position, but effective on the left wing as well. 100 million is too much as I rate him, that is a lot of money. Diomande, who has huge potential, would cost 70 in this scenario. So I'd rather pay 70 for Diomande and use that 30 million on another position, or maybe another winger that's a bit more on the sort of not the unknown side, but maybe a player of potential rather than the final product, if that makes sense. So, or use that 30 million on a midfielder or a defender. That's what I would do. Um, I think 100 million is extortion when it comes to price range. Uh, I wouldn't pay that much for him, but everyone might have a different opinion. For me, no, too much money there. Uh, uh, Femi Shima says United need a new defender and refresh the midfield. Don't know about Diomande. Yeah, 100 million is too much. Yeah, I think 100 million is definitely too much. Um, and the final rumor is regarding Andy Robertson. So, as we all know, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain recently joined Celtic, and who was the player that swayed him or gave him encouragement to join was none other than Andrew Robertson. Of course, both players are great friends from their time at Liverpool. And in an interview, Oxlade-Chamberlain said that he might join me soon, based on his current contractual situations. Now, my thoughts on this, um, it's actually a possibility. I also saw a rumor today that he was being linked to a move to Wrexham, because Wrexham are on course, I believe, of qualifying, or should I say, getting promoted to the Premier League, um, which is crazy. When you had Ryan Reynolds, I think it is, who's what part owner, investing in the club a few years ago, and they've been obtaining back-to-back promotions, and now they're on the verge of becoming a Premier League team. It's what movies are made of, right? This sounds like a movie altogether. Um, but in terms of this rumor here, you can't rule out Robertson moving on and joining Celtic, which is his boyhood club. It makes a lot of sense, especially at this stage of his career. So I can see this one happening if he was to leave. Now, in my opinion, I wouldn't sell Robertson. I would keep him on board for one more year. I think give him a 1 year extension. I feel like his experience is vital in terms of the current squad. The squad right now is quite young, and they're still getting accustomed to the coach's tactics, or getting accustomed to each other, I should say. Um, and the player that, of course, plays in his position, Kirkes, he's still quite young and raw, although he has shown vast improvement in the last couple of months. I feel like it would be better to have Robertson for one more year, where you know Perkins can learn off him, or use Robertson as his mentor, and gain valuable experience from being around him, rather than us selling Robertson and then signing a player of a similar profile to Kirkes, or someone a bit older but not really going to challenge for the first team. So make of that what you will, because I feel like he needs an experienced head around him, and I feel like that will help him excel. And I feel like with that extra season of Robertson being around the squad, you can't undervalue leaders in your squad. And I feel like Robertson is certainly one of our leaders. So I think it would be smart for us to keep him for one more year, and then if he wants to move on, that's up to him. That's the way I would look at it. So for me, if the club are not invested in giving him a new contract, then unfortunately a move looks like it's on the cards. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's Celtic. I feel like that would be quite fitting if he was to get that move. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I think if the club don't want to give him a new contract, then yeah, he will probably move on. And yeah, Celtic could be a likely destination for him. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's give a shout out to everyone involved. So shout out to Bo. Appreciate your countless amount of comments there. Appreciate you as always. Shout out to Delulu Steve. Shout out to Double D. Shout out to Dylan Kev. Shout out also to Famiat Shuma. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing it correctly. If I butchered it, apologies. Appreciate you coming on. I think you're new to the channel. I've not seen you before, so please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And shout out to Touchline Chaos as well. Appreciate your support as always, guys. As mentioned, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. In terms of upcoming shows, reluctantly, I'll be doing the watch along for this game tomorrow, and then shortly after we'll do the match reaction. So 2 shows in one tomorrow evening. Um, Hopefully we get the result, and it's not going to be a show where you see a different side of me going crazy on screen, because that's not something I want to portray on my shows. But hey, football can be an emotional game, so you never know what happens. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe. I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.